In most of the ones on Dragon's Den, you are investing in the person, really. But in most businesses, no matter what they put in front of you in terms of the metrics and what it's doing, the business they end up with tends to be different. So you end up pivoting or changing in some way. So you are very much investing in the people.
Today, we've got Piers Linney with us. Which is the most exciting? Is it the AI or is it space?
They're all different. There's no...
Welcome to Founder Metrics by Vested, the podcast where we dive into the world of hotshot business leaders and the metrics that drive their game-changing companies forward. I'm your host, Ifti Nasser, CEO and founder of Vested. So running the business is one thing, and you will have real-life data, but assessing its future potential, I guess that could be interesting using AI because, the correlations, if it can take in to its consideration macroeconomics, changes in aluminium powder cost, or the cost of rubber, and in ways that you can almost logically anticipate today. We could build a little model for that. But if it can see other correlations even behind the post of the aluminium powder, whether it's geopolitical unrest in country X or Y, or
So again,
so you just go further. AI has the potential to actually.
It does, but eventually, though, you have so much data that it's still going to be quite difficult to extract. No, but even in AI, though, once you start looking about what's the impact of, flooding in Bangladesh going to be on a SaaS company in London, there will be one.
I'm sure there will be one.
But it'll be so far out there, it'll be hard to actually pin it down. But I think that what you're going to be able to do, though, is have much more potentially sort of real-time insights. Mm-hmm. I think one thing that's quite important is, which if you think about what you just said, is that as you're looking out, the key in most businesses is having KPIs or metrics so you understand when you need to pull a lever. Yeah. And that might be the market slowing down. It might be interest rates. It might be, the cost of energy. It might be the ability to access the talent you need. And as these things become more complicated, quite often most companies, most founders even, stick their head in the sand because they don't want to hear it until it hits. I've done it myself. And whereas with the AI and other technology, you're able to look slightly further out. And if you think about it, once everybody's using it, it becomes, and it's sort of commoditized. Mm-hmm. You're all in the same game. The secret is to get out there first.
Yeah. Then it just becomes a license to operate. You have to have that insight to play. Otherwise, you're not even on the boat, as you put it. But that breadth, even real time, Piers, I think it's possible for us to be able to get better insights for actionable levers to pull in the business today.
People don't, though. People talk about, I've got the metrics, I've got the dashboard. Okay, well, can you update them? I need to go and get my CFO to go and open that. No one ever really has those dashboards.
Yeah. Leaders, founders shouldn't need to ask for anybody to provide the data or insight, because that's part of what they're taking the gamble on. It's their judgment that whether they take those right or wrong levers will determine their success.
Historically, though, this is one of the big changes I think in terms of the AI as well, is that you had to go and ask your CFO, or even worse than that, a data analyst, to find something out or look at something. And you'd be like, okay, well, what is it? It's Thursday. I've got to do the other thing for the marketing department. I'll do it on Tuesday. And it's been a week faffing around doing it. Now, you can use a prompt, just ask questions. Yeah, absolutely. It will give you the answers. I mean, the
real time.
You don't want to be a data analyst.
Going back to sticking your head in the sand, what were the metrics or the signals that you were avoiding looking at that you just mentioned?
So it'd be things, it's a business that I've been involved with, so I'm investing as well. So it would be things like the slowdown in sales, you are dropping pricing to win deals, so your margins getting squeezed. Things like that, the cost of recruiting people. Something you're trying to deal with is churn. So the cost of just maintaining a team becomes high. Some businesses where there's been inputs like physical, so those costs are going up. And what you tend to do is kind of hope in some ways that it'll revert back to the norm or the median. And often over a period, and eventually it will do. Eventually, in mathematics, you'll sort of revert somewhere to the mean. But over a period of time where it can kill you, it might not. So it's almost anything. Fundraising, runway. I've been there myself.
But you said that you stuck your head in the sand.
Yeah, I've stuck my head in the sand.
What
really.
was it on?
So things like margins. So the market's getting harder. You're trying to win deals. You're trying to be cute on the pricing. Everyone's getting quite competitive. And there comes a point where you should actually not do those deals. And then rather than trying to support a cost base that you've already got with a margin, you've got to change your cost base. So that was the issue, both in terms of your gross profit and also further down the P&L as well. And that can mean, when you're reasonably new to building a business, is that you look at the metrics and they're telling you you've got to make some pretty difficult decisions. And that can mean, reducing your headcount. That's what I'm talking about. And you don't want to do it. So you'll start to fiddle with the metrics and almost kid yourself that they're telling you something they're not. And that's when having not necessarily a board, but having somebody that can see the wood for the trees and is objective about it, to say, I hear you, you're not listening, this is going south, you need to change something and change it sooner rather than later. And the mistake I've often made is you don't make the change soon enough. So in the long run, it costs you more.
Absolutely. I think the sooner you can make the change, I mean, it's the aeroplane heading towards the mountain. If you adjust your altitude a little early and your trajectory, you'll go over it. If you just carry on, you're either going to have to take a very severe
and also, if
action
you
at the
really pull
end.
back on that lever and you go too high, you burn some more fuel, but you still made it over the mountain.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And people often, is when the metrics are telling you that you need to make a change, quite often people try and do is, I'll just tweak it just to come back into where I need to be in terms of that metric. Actually, you can usually make a much deeper change, which can make quite a big difference and make sure you stay within the boundary you need to be for longer.
So that's interesting. So what I was talking about there was the potential to make a smaller change if you have the metrics or the indications, the signals that allow you to move earlier. Because then when you're going towards that mountain, you don't want to have that severe or the crash. You don't want the severe move or the crash.
But quite often in business, though, you don't know how high the mountain is.
Right.
That's the point I'm making.
That's a very valid point.
So you're flying towards it and you think you know the altitude, but actually it's moving up and down.
There's a false summit.
Yeah, it's a false summit. So you pull back, I'll just about make it, and you go over the ridge and there's a flipping, there's the summit and it's all over. So generally speaking, if the metrics are telling you need to go and make a change, you should probably make a bigger change than you thought you had to. And in my experience, and I've heard lots of entrepreneurs tell me this, the wheels don't fall off. You think they're going to. You think that if I pull back too hard, I'll affect growth. And I've invested in companies on Dragon's Den actually, that went through this, where they were growing massively. They probably couldn't raise the finance fast enough. They're burning too much cash, and they had to kind of stop. And the metrics were telling them that you can grow, but you can't fund it. So that was the issue. So they had to kind of make those two match up again, the growth and the ability to fund it. And they did that, and they reset, changed the cost base, went again, and they sold out and all became very wealthy.
How long ago was that? Which one was that?
About 2 years ago. That was Wonderbly, probably the best deal ever on Dragon's Den, no one's ever heard of. It's the only one really where it was a tech investment. I held it for 7 or 8 years, and then they sold it to a private equity fund, and it wasn't really public, but it's the biggest proper exit I know of on Dragon's Den ever.
Let's go down the Dragon's Den conversation, but do you think they all have very similar assessments? Is it really around the human in front of them, or the humans in front of them, or how many of them are actually looking at the numbers, doing the maths?
Again, it depends on the stage of the business. If someone's standing in front of you saying, I've got a great idea to make some amazing noodles, right? You're like, okay, you're investing in them, you've got to like the mark, have some interest in it, okay?
Yeah.
If in the case of my case, actually, we've lost my name, which became Wonderbly, 4 Israeli founders. All of them, or several of them, have got PhDs, and they've got a venture capital, a decent fund. I won't mention the name. Term sheet. Okay, well, someone's kicked the tires. Someone's checked the metrics.
Some did the backward.
These guys know what they're doing. I love the product. So then I'm kind of looking at the business, the product, and much more. Whereas a lot of them, you're just looking at the person.
And do you think that's the same for most of the dragons, or?
Yeah, I mean, most of the ones on Dragon's Den, you are investing in the person, really.
Yeah.
It is the business, but in most businesses, no matter what they put in front of you in terms of the metrics and where it is and what it's doing, the business they end up with tends to be different. So you end up pivoting or changing in some way. So you are very much investing in the people. But having said that, as soon as they've got a business, they've got customers, they've got... Because on that show, the only reason Dragon's Den's still there, I think, because the world's kind of moved on, is that it's the only moment in business that you've got that jeopardy of, throwing your dreams and hopes and aspirations on the table for 5 people, whatever it is now, sitting in chairs to say yay or nay. And that jeopardy, some people want to watch, they want to see that. Other than that, running a business...
So it's entertainment, it's not business.
Well, other than that, running a business, is admin, most of it, and you want to pull your hair out. It's not good TV. So that moment's quite important, and that's why it still exists. And I think that's what people watch it. But as soon as you've done the handshake, and afterwards you go and meet in the green room, say congratulations. You do due diligence. You don't just sort of say, here's a wad of cash sitting next to me, off you go, let me know how it goes. You've got in a shareholder agreement, investment agreements, new articles, got accountants look at it, lawyers look at it. And then you start to look at whatever metrics they've got. And it can be very basic. It can be, I've got, this is what it costs me to, usually it's the P&L rate, it's the cash flows. What are you doing? How much cost you to make it? What's the margin on it? And then how much do you think you can sell? How big's the market, really? So quite basic stuff that you find in a standard real startup business plan. But the ones that are further along, like Lost My Name, they had a business, they were doing a couple 100,000 of revenue. They've got all the metrics. So you start to go through them. So customer acquisition costs, how many products they're going to buy, what's the lifetime value, all the kind of stuff you'd expect to see.
And going forward, of the ventures that you're in now, which is the most exciting? Is it the AI or is it space?
They're all different. Some of them I've started, some I've invested in, some I'm a co-founder of. So they're all very, very different.
But which one excites you the most? If you had to say, I can only do one because I need to spend more time with family, or whatever the reason is, you got a choice. Which one are you gonna?
So I think that artificial intelligence, whatever that becomes, we're still working on our kind of product market fit. I think that's going to be bigger than the internet. So if there's a wave that anyone should be paddling into right now, that's it.
Is it scary? Because there's all sorts of stuff about AI ethics and the potential for AI.
I'm more positive. So I've seen the web 1.0, I was there. 2, not really, wasn't there. 3, sort of, but more privately, crypto and stuff like that. Did okay. But this one is probably the last human invention on our own. Because once you get past it into AGI, I don't mean sentient robots trampling over the skulls of humans nonsense. I mean, this thing's still just a good toaster. It's technology. I think that it's going to change how we interact with each other, how we interact with technology, business, and society generally. So I've kind of seen, and you always get these hype cycles, the usual load of hype, and then you get the trough of disillusionment, and it kind of comes back. And I think that if you look at crypto as a good example, with crypto, it was really about, let's face it was about how much money can you make. It wasn't even real money, a lot of it. A lot of the use cases were just marketing to try and make money, to pump stuff. And I think the use cases are there. For example, in artificial intelligence, you could watch a podcast of you and I in not too long. You wouldn't even notice us.
Absolutely.
You could be saying all sorts of stuff and nothing to do with metrics. So what NFTs do is allow you to append something to content where what its provenance is and it's real. So you see the use cases start to come through. But artificial intelligence is different. I think there's still hype and noise. but the use cases are clear. I use it every day. And even though I use it every day and I'm always playing with it and trying things and talking to developers, I use it and it still astounds me that, this thing's not that intelligent. This is the worst it's ever going to be.
Absolutely. It's going to get better day
Everyone's like,
by
it doesn't
day.
do that. It doesn't understand that. You're
Yeah,
like,
so what it will do,
like pong. It's
it
like,
will do very soon.
Yeah. So it's game changer. And I think that you don't need to go looking for the use cases because they're already there. Even if it never did anything else, it's completely, the value and cost of content will go to zero.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of things that will go to, in terms of cost, will go to zero. I mean, cost of energy potentially could go to zero with the right AI addressing the problem.
It'll solve fusion eventually, and then it'll
it's
change the world.
solving the problem. But you mentioned something that was really interesting a few minutes ago. You talked about your agent talking to another agent, whether it's from a company or from another human. Where does the human come in? At the end of the day, you'll just have agents talking to agents. Self-fulfilling. What's the human part in this game?
A business and a customer, right? You've got a customer with wants and needs, and a business is trying to fulfill them or invent new ones or explain new ones and add value to their life. So a lot of the sales process really is going through the process of who are they, where are they, qualifying them, answering the questions, and then trying to close them down, either on a page or face to face. Now, you're going to have two types of AI. You're going to have personal AI and corporate AI. So you could be sitting at home, doing your filing your nails, and your personal AI is chatting away to a corporate AI, saying, "Well, hang on a minute, my Piers, or if they need this, that's not really what they want. Okay, well, let me write some more code to improve this product." And then these two AIs are chatting away, and only when it knows that you're going to buy it or adds the value you need, is it going to actually make you aware of it even. And that's the world. That's the world we're going towards.
Yeah, but it's not even necessarily asking you whether you want it to
just deploy
interact on this particular thing or the other. It will anticipate what your needs are.
Yeah. And in corporates, this is what gets very interesting, is that the intelligence in your business will look at the metrics or look at the insights in all this data. It won't even be metrics, it'll just be very complicated insights. And it will ruthlessly optimize your P&L, be it suppliers, be it human resource, any kind of resource. If it's not quite right, if you're on Google Cloud and suddenly AWS has got a better solution, it'll just move you. It won't even ask you. So
because it knows what
it'll be ruthless
given
optimization.
The instructions or the direction.
It'll be
pursue an objective.
Ruthless, continuous
pursuit of
infinite
objective.
Optimization. Which is, it's hard to comprehend.
So with that in mind, what is the utility for the human? Is it literally just to be able to surf on the waves rather than on the internet for the rest of your life? Or
this is a big one.
What are, if indeed we have just pure humans at the end of this? Because the whole notion of implanting AI has already started.
It's all about horizons. So, right, okay, 2 years out, cars probably still won't drive themselves. I was an advisor to a very large automotive manufacturer for about a year, and they were talking about cars of the future. Will it probably be illegal for a human to drive a car in a big city within my daughter's lifetime?
I would agree. Absolutely agree with you.
And so you're looking at all these things where they're kind of coming, but you don't quite know when. So 5 years out, I think you start to see huge automation in business. Again, I wrote an article on LinkedIn this week about scaling humans. So scaling humans means that you as a human, now I can do a lot more with less. I can brainstorm things, I can produce content, I can be assisted producing content. So humans scale up, and again, they've got to move with that pyramid. So you've got to keep adding value. But at the top of the pyramid, most industrial revolution, if you think about it, steam, consumer, internet, you didn't really see a lot of people lose their jobs. They just changed what they were doing because the demand was growing. And now we're seeing that AI, if you scale humans to that extent, as the population begins to decrease, looking 50 years out, you don't need as many people working. So again, this is probably not for this podcast, but it's kind of like, do we all end up on universal basic income, whatever that might be? But between now and then, you're going to have a period of cognitive work will move to artificial intelligence. And eventually that intelligence will build better, cheaper, not just industrial, but consumer. I think Elon Musk is slightly ahead of the curve with his robot carrying a tray of tea around your house. It costs you about 250 grand. So it would be for very few houses. But eventually, the price will come down, as it always does, with scale. And you'll have then robotics, and that might be 5, 10, even 15 years out. But eventually, most human physical labour will also be replaced. And the question for us is, what do we then do all day? And I think there's the dystopian and the utopian. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it's going to be, we're going to have to find a way of funding people to some extent. But I think this is an enabler. It's empowering. And if you grasp that opportunity and do something with it, then you can do things you could never have dreamt of before. You can have a unicorn, with 5 employees. It will be possible. So the question is for those, and that's the entrepreneur.
Who would the unicorn be serving?
Well, you're still going to have billions of humans who need, TVs and phones.
But that's the other side of the question then. Why do we need so many humans? I mean, we're going very...
Well, you're getting all Malthusian.
No, just asking the question. I mean, one of the reasons for having big populations was to do stuff.
Well, it's shrinking.
Whether it's for the nation or the corporate. If you need fewer humans, are we almost looking at a declining... Well, the population's
declining anyway. Some populations are collapsing.
No, in certain countries they are. The world as yet is not. But do we see that is actually the outcome? Because actually you don't need all these humans anymore. Keeping them alive or having them reproducing, carrying on, is consuming the Earth's resources, and so actually
but again,
it doesn't make sense.
But this is what intelligence can do, isn't it? You can have AGI, artificial super intelligence. It doesn't mean it's sentient. It's just artificial intelligence. All it does is optimize. So the point is that you talked about energy. Maybe it will solve fusion and it will optimize our access to very, very cheap energy. That alone changes the world. That solves the world's water problems, because now you can actually desalinate water. You can't do it now because it's too energy intensive. When energy is almost free, you can desalinate as much water as you want. So I'm more in the kind of this kind of the world of opportunity, of abundance, some people call it. But there will be complexities with that. So I'm more of a net positive than a net negative. There were people, you imagine, is it Emad again of Stability AI? He's helping children in Africa have an iPad with, 100 megabyte file, which gives them a version of ChatGPT. So now they've got access to every language, all the information in the world, everywhere they go, in the middle of Africa. So that's a game changer, although slightly off your metric subject.
It is a little bit off the metrics, but what it does do is just show that the future is changing and allowing whatever business you're in, having the ability to at least see the forward horizon,
understand, and use
is
data.
Key.
Yeah,
absolutely
amount
key.
of data.
Because certainly if you're looking to build a business that's got a 20-year horizon, if you're not aware of what's happening on AI, which may result in it only having a 5-year horizon, then you're in the wrong place.
But now you think about your business, right? So you're looking, okay, I need to understand revenue, I understand my margin, people, admin costs, financing. You keep going down, and eventually your financing appears in your P&L one way or the other. Now think about some of the, again, like Stability AI. He's talking about building models for a country.
Yeah.
So you imagine the amount of data that there's going to be in there, which is quite easily manageable these days. A business, a company, is insignificant in terms of the amount of data you're going to need to manage and assimilate.
I mean, at the moment, that's what people have to do anyway. As a government, you have to build a model, however imperfect, to assess how best to run that country take forward. Now, if you've got if you're deploying AI in service of that, even if it lifts it by 5%, 10%, you've already made a difference, and you can see that's possible. Yeah. And you can see that it'll be a damn sight more than 5 or 10% because the humans just don't have the data sets or
I think
work the data sets to get the optimum outcome.
I think now if you can access the API or code interpreter on OpenAI, and then if you just take your company's data, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, the basic, very basic, and a CSV, upload it and just let it do its thing, you'll be astounded. It'll start to tell you things that you never even knew you needed to know.
Yeah, because you weren't looking.
Yeah,
you didn't have the insight to, or you didn't have the correlation
you
to know
why
it was. Yeah,
we can say to it, tell me some interesting insights about my business data. That's it, and it will just churn out things. Something like, okay, I kind of knew that, but there were things where you think, really, that's connected. And once you know they're connected, going back to the earlier conversation, you can then pull the right lever to change that. And that's
and being able to distinguish between just pure correlations and causations, and knowing that it actually pulling that lever will do this, then
also you don't waste lots of time, as we all do in business,
yeah,
pulling levers that are attached to
hoping.
Yeah, there's no wire, there's no cable, and you think, oh, why did that work? Let's try another one. Whereas in this case, you know before you pull it that there's going to be an impact.
So why wouldn't it? If you've set the objectives correctly, you understand the metric that you're going for. You set that within the AI. Why would it not just take you to the optimum?
So think about another way. So think about the way we interact with technology now is very much about it's iterative, which is kind of like what metric sites. Here's a metric. You check it against a plan. Is there a delta, positive, negative? And you change. You try and pull the lever. You try and change your course accordingly. What we're moving towards is a world where you set objectives or intent. So our intent this month is to sell this many of this product to this kind of customer. Go and do it.
Yeah.
So the agents then go off and work out how do they fulfill that objective. And they come back with an answer, and ideally with it done. Not an answer. You go, oh, okay, you missed it by X percent. Let's adjust. They just go off and get it done. And that's changing the interface. Technology is moving from this sort of flipping keyboard, graphical user interface to natural language. You will sit in front of a computer. People don't. I sort of understand why all these chatbots are still flipping keyboard. Because the translation models are amazing, but it's Microsoft, OpenAI, Meta have got a great one now. And you can be able to talk to your computer, not everywhere, because it will be, you can't do everyone on the tube chatting away to their computer. There will be reasons to have a keyboard. And just say and set and explain your intent, your objective, and let your agents go off and deliver it. That's a complete change in how you actually interact with your business and your metrics and your technology.
The more I hear from what you're saying, actually the exciting side of it, the not quite utopian but net positive side of it, I think is becoming much more clearer to me. Rather than just
if you don't get on this boat, you're in trouble because the competition wants to get ahead of you. It'd be very, very difficult to catch up.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think even every business, you're saying that you test out stuff on a daily basis. I would absolutely agree. You just need to try play with it.
We both work for very large companies, in your background, and they're usually the laggards. They're the ones that look at technology and go, and 10 years later, they're still trying to transition to the cloud. I'm doing talks today I was doing 10 years ago about transitioning to the cloud because the use case isn't quite clear.
Well, you clearly benefit from the laggards and the dinosaurs because you've still got somebody to talk to.
Well, that's true, actually. They keep asking me to do talks. But what's interesting, though, in artificial intelligence is it's the big companies that are throwing a huge amount of money at this because they understand there's an existential risk that they kind of understand or they don't understand, which is probably even worse for a lot of them. So a lot of the investment you're seeing going into these large language models and people building, huge NVIDIA-powered data centers are large companies because they understand it. And that's the interesting thing in this race, I think, is that what you're going to see, if you're a founder or an SME, my view is that you're going to see that big companies can now go after the long tail. So the smaller business, you can also go after the long tail. Now, your local chip shop's not going to become BP and vice versa. But that battle for that middle ground, I think, is where there's a huge opportunity and a huge threat.
The battle for the middle ground.
Yeah, because you can both
So,
now go after
yeah.
the long tail, which is what big companies have struggled at. That's always been the small companies' place, is home.
Yeah.
But now a small company now, your 3-person unicorn,
Yeah.
can start to go after enterprise opportunities. So you're fighting for that middle ground, I think, which is going to be an interesting one, because artificial intelligence, it doesn't just scale humans, it levels up humans. I mean, it'll take disability off the table eventually. Cognitive or physical disability, it won't matter. You won't know. You'll be leveled up.
It's an exciting place, the future. So in terms of old world SaaS businesses, you're not investing in those now?
No, so I think with SaaS business,
yeah.
there is no point being. Give an example, right? So not too long ago, I wanted to ingest my content into a sort of small, like a mini chat GPT.
Yeah.
I've got Piers bot. You go to the website, you can chat to Piers bot and ask him questions. And I thought it was all text based.
Yeah.
So I need to transcribe YouTube videos into text. So there's things you can do. It's SaaS. So I went on there and it's 20 quid a month, 50 quid a month, $50 a month. And I thought, no, I'm going to do this myself. So I went on GitHub, found some code. Never been on GitHub in my life, by the way. And wrote a Python script in ChatGPT, which took a few attempts to get it right. But then it turned into a batch process where I could just point at URLs or files in this case, and it just translated them for me. So I can't even code. BBC Computer, like really basic coding, BBC Basic, nothing else. And it took a bit of tweaking. But now I'd saved myself quite a bit of money by creating my own SaaS. And the SaaS I look at, most of them now are, you've got a model or a platform. There's a bit of code to make it a bit, give you a nice graphical user interface, which I think the end's coming for that as well. And then it's attached to Stripe. That's kind of it. So if you're SaaS, you've got to think about, how do I add value in a world where a human can talk to one of these models or these platforms, explain what it wants. It can go away and write the code and integrate to all these powerful APIs and deliver the objective or the intent, more my intent, what I'm looking for. That's what SaaS does.
Yeah, I think that's the in my own mind, pure SaaS, which is just about the software. I think that's a very valid assessment. I think the difference comes where it's actually the business proposition is not only ever going to be solved by code alone.
Yeah.
It's where that human element is needed as well, because humans are humans, and there are elements that you just can't do, or you can't trust, or you will not trust.
But also, don't forget that, but a lot of the explosion in current SaaS is just this thin layer above large language models. They're the ones I'm really talking about. If you've got a SaaS that adds a huge amount of value, that's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
But you've got to make sure that whatever you're bringing to market will survive natural language interaction with technology that can just write code.
Yeah.
And it can access all these models.
It has to.
And your company's database. People think these things, they're not databases, they're useless at it. There's some sort of vector database that's quite good, but not particularly good at that. If you can connect the two, you're off. You'll be able to just, I look forward to a day where you can create a SaaS just by having a conversation. And the next day it'll be slightly different because it's learned something. I thought, well, I wouldn't do it that way, I'd do it this way. And it explains to you, you go, okay, off you go. And it improves the code and it keeps iterating it. That's the world, I think, that's a very exciting world.
That's crazy, actually. Yeah. The
Yeah.
notion that you could build
That's not far away, is it? Think about it.
Build a business from a conversation. Because at the end of the day, what is an idea? It's just something that's to be tested.
You imagine suddenly you go, right, I need to start a business. I've got this idea for a product. Like, build me a website. Here's some content. That produces, that's quite easy now. And then it says, okay, I want to do this. Use this model, and off it goes. And now the question is, are you going to build SaaS, or are you going to build businesses that just use the technology? That's the difference, I think. Do you sort of see the end of that? A lot of that SaaS, and those entrepreneurs start thinking, actually, how do I add value to people's lives using this technology?
Yeah. And it's that objective that you're
And
setting out
it's
for.
specific SaaS. It's for your business, the way you want to do it, for your customer, and the way you see the value being added, not the middle of a bell curve of a SaaS company's product market fit.
Yeah. No, there's some really valuable insights there, Piers. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. For taking
taking
it slightly
the
off
time.
script.
It doesn't matter. I guess at the end of the day, in
But
my
this
own
is a
mind,
change
there is
metrics,
there is no script for these conversations. It's about broadening the horizons for our fellow founders out in business, helping them look at whether it's numbers or metrics, because as we said earlier, not all metrics are numbers, although it suggests that they should be. But giving them the opportunity to just look a little bit forward.
Yeah, so to finish on is you need metrics. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Yeah.
But make sure if you are measuring it, you actually do manage it. You don't stick your head in the sand.
Yeah.
You've got an objective view on it. It could be your CFO, it could be your board, it could be advisors, whoever, or it could be your co-founder. Just make sure you've got an objective view on it. If you see something going south, make a change early. We've talked about that. But longer term, the concept of metrics is going to change because all of your data will become relevant, not just some way of trying to distill a ratio out of it so you can manage the business. All of your data will become relevant, and AI will help you derive insights from that whole
Everything that you have.
everything you do.
Brilliant. A great
Thanks for having me.
encapsulation of the conversation. Cheers, Piers. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Founder Metrics. Remember, even the biggest of ambitions are within your reach when you leverage the right strategies and metrics. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and never miss a future episode. You can visit vested.com, Founder Metrics, for additional resources, articles, and exclusive content. Join our growing community of entrepreneurs and founders by following us on LinkedIn or X. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Together, let's continue to unlock the metrics of success, sharing, and create a brighter future.